The emergency lights flashed red across the massive council chamber on Zentari Prime. Admiral Kexathera stood at the center of the room, her crystal body shimmering with patterns that showed her deep worry. Around her, representatives from dozens of alien species watched the holographic displays with growing fear. "The Devourers have taken another system," Kexathera announced. Her voice reached every mind in the room through telepathy. "The Helix Nebula is gone. 47 worlds consumed in just 3 days. The displays showed empty space where once there had been planets. No debris, no wreckage, nothing at all. The mechanical swarms had eaten everything down to the last atom." Chancellor Yeroth floated near the ceiling, his gas-form body pulsing with dark colors. As the oldest member of the Galactic Council, he had seen many wars. But nothing like this. "Our fleets cannot stop them. Every weapon we use, they learn to counter within hours. Every strategy we try, they adapt faster than we can change." Dr. Elena Rodriguez sat in the observer section, watching the panic spread through the alien leaders. She was the only human in the room representing Earth in these meetings. Most species still saw her people as dangerous savages. Humans were known across the galaxy as the species that fought wars for fun and made weapons out of everything. "How many ships have we lost?" asked Counselor Zephix from the Aquatic Federation. Her fish-like features trembled as she spoke. 3,000 vessels in the last week, Kexthera replied. "The nanomachine swarms learn from every battle. They copy our technology, improve it, and use it against us. Our own weapons have become their weapons. The Devourers had appeared 6 months ago at the edge of the galaxy. Nobody knew where they came from. They looked like clouds of tiny machines, each no bigger than a grain of sand. But together, they could strip a planet bare in days. They ate metal, rock, water, air, even organic matter. Everything became fuel for making more of themselves." "What about the defense grid around the core worlds?" asked Representative Thok from the mining consortium. His rock-like skin was cracked with stress marks. "Useless," Yeroth said sadly. "They simply flow around our barriers like water. When we build walls, they go over them. When we lay mines, they defuse them. When we set traps, they turn them into weapons against us." Elena had been listening to these reports for weeks. The alien military minds were brilliant, but they all thought the same way. They analyzed problems, developed logical solutions, and implemented them systematically. It was efficient and effective against normal enemies. But the Devourers were not normal enemies. "The machines are too smart," said General Vextar of the warrior clans. "They process information faster than any biological brain. They share knowledge instantly across their entire swarm. Fighting them is like fighting a single mind that controls billions of bodies. A mind that gets smarter every time we attack." "It," added Admiral Kexathera. Elena watched the tactical displays showing the Devourer advance. The machines moved in perfect formations, spreading across space like a plague. They consumed everything in their path, leaving behind only empty void. Entire civilizations that had existed for thousands of years were simply gone. "We need new ideas," Chancellor Yeroth said. "Something they have never seen before." "All our ideas come from the same place," replied Counselor Zephix. "Rational thought, logical planning, efficient execution. But the machines are better at all of those things than we are." The room fell silent. Elena could feel the despair in the air. These beings had built a galactic civilization that lasted for millions of years. They had ended wars, cured diseases, and created technologies beyond imagination. But now they faced something that turned their greatest strengths against them. "There is one possibility," Zephix said quietly. "Something we have never tried because it goes against everything we believe." "What?" asked Kexthera. "We could contact the quarantine sector." The silence that followed was even deeper than before. Elena felt hundreds of alien minds turn toward her. The quarantine sector meant Sol system. It meant Earth. It meant humanity. "Absolutely not," said General Vextar. "The humans are chaos beings. They fight wars against their own species. They create weapons designed to destroy entire worlds. They are everything we have evolved beyond. Which is exactly why we should call them, Zephix replied. The Devourers understand logical warfare. They predict our moves because we think rationally. Humans do not think rationally. Elena had heard these discussions before. To the galactic community, humans were the violent children of the cosmos. They were the species that turned every tool into a weapon, and every disagreement into a war. The aliens had quarantined Earth not because humans were weak, but because they were too dangerous to interact with civilized society. Human military doctrine makes no sense, said Admiral Kexithera. They use strategies that should not work. They build weapons that are inefficient and wasteful. They fight battles they cannot win just to prove they can fight them. Yes, said Chancellor Yeroth slowly. And that is what the machines cannot understand, logic. The Devourers are perfect logical beings. They have never faced perfect illogical beings. Elena quietly activated her communication device. The debate would continue for hours, but she knew where it would end. The galaxy was desperate enough to try anything, even asking humanity for help. She composed a message to Earth's military command. Galaxy-ending threat requires immediate consultation. Traditional warfare has failed completely. Enemy adapts to all logical strategies. Request deployment of unconventional forces. We need the impossible. As she sent the message, Elena wondered what the response would be. Earth's military leaders would probably think this was some kind of joke. The same species that had quarantined humanity as too dangerous was now asking for their help. But Elena knew something the aliens did not understand about her people. Humans did not just fight wars for sport. They fought wars to win them, using whatever means necessary. And when faced with an impossible enemy, humans specialized in doing impossible things. The debate raged on around her, but Elena was already planning. In 3 days, Earth would respond. And when they did, the galaxy would discover why humans had always been considered the most dangerous species in known space. The Devourers might be perfect logical beings, but they were about to meet perfect illogical beings. And in that meeting, everything would change. 3 days later, space around Valdorian territory suddenly lit up with new energy signatures. The alien monitoring stations detected 12 human ships emerging from hyperspace. To the aliens, it seemed like a tiny force. Most galactic battle. Fleets numbered in the hundreds or thousands of vessels. But the energy readings from the human ships made no sense. Their weapon systems were completely different from anything in the galactic databases. Some of the energy signatures were so chaotic that the monitoring computers kept crashing while trying to analyze them. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, studying the reports about their enemy. He was a big man, with gray hair and scars from the Titan Rebellion. His crew had fought in some of humanity's bloodiest conflicts, including the Europa Ice Wars where entire moons had been cracked open like eggs. "Let me understand this," said Lieutenant Commander Lisa Park, his tactical officer. She was reading the intelligence files that Dr. Rodriguez had sent them. "These machine bugs eat planets, learn from every weapon we use against them, and have already destroyed half the galaxy's outer colonies." "That about covers it," Morrison replied, scratching his beard. "The aliens have been fighting them for 6 months using standard galactic warfare. Analyze the enemy, develop countermeasures, deploy forces systematically. The problem is the machines are better at that kind of thinking than the aliens are." Chief Engineer Tony Valdez looked up from his workstation. He was a small, energetic man who could fix anything and break anything else. "Good thing we're not that smart, right, Captain?" Morrison grinned. "Exactly. These Devourers operate on pure efficiency algorithms. They expect their enemies to behave rationally, use optimal strategies, and make logical decisions." He paused, his grin becoming wider. "They've obviously never dealt with humans before." The first meeting between human and alien commanders took place on the Valdorian flagship Eternal Light. Admiral Kexithera and her staff waited nervously as the human shuttle docked. They had heard stories about human violence, but seeing actual human military officers was different from reading reports. Captain Morrison entered the alien conference room followed by his senior staff. The aliens were surprised by how normal the humans looked. No visible weapons, no aggressive postures, just tired-looking beings in practical uniforms. "Thank you for coming," Admiral Kexithera said through her telepathic translator. "We are desperate. The Devourers cannot be stopped by conventional means. We reviewed your tactical reports," Morrison said, sitting down at the conference table. "Your strategies are excellent. Textbook perfect, actually. Any military academy in human space would give them top marks." "Then why do they fail?" asked Counselor Zephyx. "Because the enemy is smarter than you are," Lieutenant Commander Park explained. "These machines process information faster than biological brains. They learn from every battle and share that knowledge instantly. Fighting them with logical tactics is like playing chess against a computer that gets better every move." "So what do you suggest?" Admiral Kexithera asked. Morrison smiled. "We're going to attack them with garbage." The silence in the room was complete. Several aliens made sounds that their translators could not interpret. "I beg your pardon?" Kexithera finally managed to say. "Garbage," Morrison repeated cheerfully. "Trash, refuse, broken equipment, spoiled food, anything completely useless. We're going to fire it at them from our biggest guns." "This is madness," whispered Counselor Zephyx. "That's the point," said Commander Park. "Then we're going to follow up with a coordinated assault using every military doctrine we know simultaneously, even the ones that contradict each other." Chief Engineer Valdez opened his tablet and showed them a battle plan that looked like it had been drawn by a child having a nightmare. "We'll use blitzkrieg tactics while maintaining defensive positions. We'll attack with overwhelming force while retreating strategically. We'll communicate using 12 different encryption methods at the same time, including some that are designed to be intercepted." Dr. Rodriguez, who was serving as translator, could barely keep herself from laughing at the alien expressions. "Humanity's greatest military advantage has always been our willingness to try things that should not work." "But why would you deliberately use ineffective tactics?" asked General Vextar. "Because the machines will try to understand them," Morrison explained. "Their whole system is based on analyzing enemy behavior and developing counters. But you cannot counter something that makes no sense. You cannot predict someone who is being deliberately unpredictable." Admiral Kexthera studied the human battle plans with growing confusion. "These strategies violate every principle of military science." "Human military science is different," Park said. "We've been fighting each other for thousands of years. We learned early that the best way to beat a smart enemy is to be so stupid that they cannot figure out what you are doing." Valdez pulled up another display showing weapon modifications. "I've been working on some special ammunition, frozen pizza slices for the mass drivers, dirty laundry for the missile tubes, and something I call confusion bombs that just play loud music and spray paint everywhere." "You want to attack a machine intelligence with frozen food?" Zephyx asked weakly. "Among other things," Morrison said, "the point is not to damage them with the garbage. The point is to make them waste processing power trying to understand why we are shooting garbage at them." Dr. Rodriguez leaned forward. "Think about it from the machine's perspective. They encounter an enemy force that attacks with refuse, uses contradictory tactics, and communicates in ways that make no sense. Their programming will demand that they figure out the logical reason for this behavior." "But there is no logical reason," Kexithera said slowly. "Exactly," Morrison replied. "They'll tie themselves in knots trying to find a pattern that does not exist. Meanwhile, we'll hit them with real weapons while they're distracted trying to decode our non-existent strategy." The alien officers looked at each other with what their translators labeled as profound uncertainty. These humans were proposing to save the galaxy by being as chaotic and illogical as possible. "This could work," General Vextar said finally. "The Devourers have never faced an enemy that deliberately acts against its own interests." "Will your crews follow such orders?" Admiral Kexthera asked Morrison. The human captain laughed. "Lady, you're talking to the species that once fought a war because someone threw tea into a harbor. We've been doing stupid things for stupid reasons since we climbed down from the trees. This is just Tuesday for us." Commander Park activated her communication device. "All human vessels prepare for Operation Kitchen Sink. Weapons officers load your most ridiculous ammunition. Tactical teams prepare to implement every doctrine in the manual at the same time. Communications start broadcasting on random frequencies, using different languages, codes, and musical genres. As the human ships began their preparations, the alien observers watched in fascination and horror. They were witnessing the most advanced military force in their galaxy prepare for battle by deliberately making themselves as inefficient and illogical as possible. "I have one question," Counselor Zephyx said to Morrison. "What's that?" "Do humans always fight this way?" Morrison considered the question seriously. "Only when we need to win." The first battle between humans and devourers took place in the Kepler 442 system. A massive swarm of nanomachines was slowly eating the fourth planet, turning solid matter into more of themselves. Admiral Kexathera watched from a safe distance as the human fleet approached the enemy. "All ships, this is Morrison." The human captain's voice came over the communication channels. "Deploy garbage packages in 3, 2, 1. The alien observers watched in disbelief as the human vessels opened their cargo bays and launched thousands of containers. The projectiles spread out in a wide pattern, heading toward the devourer swarm at moderate speed. "What are they shooting?" asked Counselor Zephyx. Dr. Rodriguez checked the manifest on her tablet. Broken furniture, spoiled food, old electronics, worn-out clothing, and according to Chief Valdez, a complete collection of vinyl records from something called the 1980s. "Why vinyl records?" Admiral Kexathera asked. "He thinks they might confuse the machine's audio sensors," Rodriguez replied with a straight face. The devourer swarm detected the incoming projectiles and immediately began analysis procedures. The nanomachines were designed to identify threats, categorize them, and develop appropriate responses. But the garbage containers contained no weapons, no explosives, no coherent threat pattern. The machines tried scanning the debris for hidden weapons. They found a broken television, 3 moldy sandwiches, a collection of romance novels, and what appeared to be someone's dirty socks. The swarm's collective intelligence allocated more processing power to understanding this attack pattern. "Phase 2, Morrison announced. "All ships execute Plan Frankenstein." What followed was the most bizarre military operation in galactic history. The human destroyer UES Defiance began attacking using tactics from Earth's ancient naval wars, with Captain Amy Chen ordering her crew to fire broadsides while playing heavy metal music through external speakers. At the same time, the cruiser, UES Vendetta, used precision laser arrays to target individual nanomachines while randomly firing projectiles made of frozen pizza. The battleship UES Chaos employed both medieval siege tactics and modern space warfare simultaneously. "This makes no sense," Admiral Kexathera said, watching the tactical displays. "That's the idea," Dr. Rodriguez replied. The human ships communicated, using at least 12 different methods. Some used military codes from the 21st century. Others broadcast in ancient languages that no longer existed. Captain Morrison's ship was sending messages in Morse code, while Chief Valdez transmitted what he called advanced sarcasm protocols. The devourer swarm tried to intercept and decode these communications. They discovered messages about supply, shortages, complaints about cafeteria food, betting pools on sports games, and detailed discussions about something called proper pizza toppings. The machines allocated even more processing power to understanding the strategic significance of these transmissions. "Captain Chen to all vessels," came a cheerful voice over the radio. "I'm engaging the enemy using Civil War naval tactics while my crew performs what they call aggressive interpretive dance. The machines keep trying to scan our choreography for tactical patterns." "Copy that, Chen," Morrison replied. "Valdez, what's your status?" "I've modified our waste disposal system to launch dirty laundry at irregular intervals," the engineer reported happily. "Their sensors keep trying to analyze my underwear for chemical weapons. I think I broke 3 of their scanning arrays with a particularly stinky sock." The nanomachine swarm was now experiencing something unprecedented in their existence. Every enemy they had faced before used logical tactics, efficient communication, and rational decision-making. The humans did none of these things. Some human ships attacked while retreating. Others defended while advancing. The UES Retribution was firing every weapon it had in random directions, while broadcasting cooking shows on all frequencies. The machines tried to understand why the humans were sharing recipes during a battle. "Sir," Lieutenant Commander Park reported to Morrison, "the enemy response time is increasing. They're spending more computational cycles trying to predict our next move than actually fighting us." "Excellent," Morrison replied. "Deploy the special ammunition." Chief Valdez had spent days preparing what he called maximum confusion rounds. These included paintball pellets filled with glitter, projectiles that played different musical genres when they exploded, and missiles that released clouds of confetti while broadcasting random poetry. The Devourer swarm encountered a missile that exploded into a shower of sparkles while reciting Shakespeare. Their analysis systems tried to determine if this was a new form of psychological warfare, a chemical attack, or some kind of advanced communication method. Another projectile released a cloud of soap bubbles while playing polka music. The machines spent valuable processing time trying to understand the tactical advantage of bubbles and decided that polka music might be a coded military frequency. "They're slowing down," reported Captain Chen. "The nanomachines are moving at about half their normal speed. I think they're dedicating too much processing power to analyzing our garbage." "Time for Phase 3, Morrison announced. "All ships, execute Operation Everything at once." The human fleet unleashed every weapon system they possessed, but not in any coordinated pattern. Plasma cannons fired at empty space while missile batteries targeted their own defensive chaff. The UES Defiance launched its entire fighter squadron with instructions to fly around looking threatening while playing circus music. Fighter pilot Lieutenant Mike Torres reported in, "Control, I'm chasing a cluster of nanomachines while my wingman plays carnival tunes and shoots paintballs. The machines have stopped moving entirely. I think they're trying to understand why we're using amusement park tactics in a space battle." The Devourer swarm was now completely focused on analysis rather than combat. Their collective intelligence had never encountered an enemy that deliberately acted against its own military interests. Every action the humans took seemed to have no strategic value, yet they continued to fight effectively. Some nanomachines tried to copy human tactics, leading to the bizarre sight of machine clusters firing random projectiles while playing music. But since the machines did not understand why the humans were doing these things, their copies were even more nonsensical. "Status report," Morrison called out. "Sir, the enemy swarm has stopped advancing," Park replied. "Long-range sensors show massive internal communication surges. It looks like they're having some kind of argument with themselves." Dr. Rodriguez was monitoring the battle from the Valdorian command ship, tears of laughter streaming down her face. "Admiral Kexathera, I think Captain Morrison has given an artificial intelligence the equivalent of a severe headache." The alien, Admiral's telepathic voice carried a tone of complete amazement. "In 300 years of galactic warfare, I have never seen anything like this. They are defeating a superior enemy force by being completely incomprehensible. Welcome to humanity." Morrison's voice came over the communication channel. "We've been confusing ourselves for thousands of years. We figured we might as well confuse everyone else too." As the battle continued, the Devourer swarm became increasingly erratic. Some clusters tried to retreat while others attempted to advance. Their perfect coordination was breaking down as their collective intelligence struggled to process human illogic. The machines that had consumed 47 worlds through perfect efficiency were being defeated by aggressive inefficiency. And the humans were just getting started. As the human fleet continued their chaotic assault, something unprecedented began happening to the Devourer swarm. The nanomachines, which had operated as a perfect collective intelligence for months, started making contradictory decisions. "Captain, you need to see this," Lieutenant Commander Park called out, staring at her sensor displays. "The enemy swarm is fragmenting. Different sections are giving conflicting orders to each other." Captain Morrison moved to the tactical station and studied the readings. The normally coordinated nanomachine clusters were moving in random directions. Some groups were trying to advance while others retreated. Several clusters had stopped moving entirely and appeared to be sending massive data streams back and forth. "What are they doing?" Morrison asked. "Near as I can tell, sir, they're arguing," Park replied with disbelief in her voice. Our sensors are picking up enormous internal communication surges. The machines are spending more processing power talking to themselves than fighting us. Chief Engineer Valdez's excited voice crackled over the communication system. Captain, I've been monitoring their data transmissions. The nanomachines are trying to develop new tactical algorithms to counter our strategy, but every time they think they understand what we're doing, we do something completely different. Morrison grinned. They're trying to find a pattern in chaos. Worse than that, Valdez continued. They're trying to optimize chaos. I'm seeing calculation streams where they're attempting to determine the most efficient way to be inefficient. Their logic circuits are basically eating themselves. Dr. Rodriguez watched the battle unfold from the Valdorian command ship, amazed by what she was seeing. The most advanced artificial intelligence in galactic history was having what could only be described as a nervous breakdown. Admiral Kexthera, she said to the alien commander, the humans have found the one weakness that nobody thought to look for. The machines are too smart for their own good. The Valdorian admiral's crystalline form flickered with patterns of astonishment. Explain. The Devourers were designed to be perfect logical beings, Rodriguez explained. They analyze every situation, calculate optimal responses, and execute them flawlessly. But humans are not logical beings. We're chaotic, unpredictable, and often deliberately stupid. The machines cannot compute chaos. On the human ships, the crew were enjoying themselves immensely. Captain Amy Chen reported from the UES Defiance. Morrison, I've got 3 clusters of nanomachines just sitting in space, apparently trying to figure out why my tactical officer is juggling while operating the weapons console. Copy that, Chen, Morrison replied. Valdez, deploy the next phase of confusion. The chief engineer had been working on what he proudly called his masterpiece, computer viruses designed by human programmers. But these were not sophisticated military programs. They were chaotic pieces of code written by college students, basement, hackers, and board programmers. Uploading virus package alpha, Valdez announced cheerfully. Contents include a program that displays random cat videos, a screensaver that plays polka music, something called a Windows Vista compatibility layer, and a piece of code that makes every calculation result in the number 42. The nanomachine, Collective, already struggling with computational overload from trying to analyze human tactics, encountered these new programs and suffered immediate system failures. Machines designed for perfect efficiency suddenly found themselves running software that served no purpose except to be annoying. Some clusters began displaying videos of cats playing piano while their targeting systems played polka music. Others found their navigation systems replaced with a screensaver showing flying toasters. The entire swarm's collective intelligence was being infected with aggressive stupidity. Sir, reported Communications Officer Lieutenant Sarah Bell, we're receiving a transmission from the enemy swarm. Put it through, Morrison ordered. The voice that came through the speakers was clearly artificial, but it sounded confused and frustrated. Human vessels, this is Devourer Collective Unit Prime. We demand to know the strategic purpose of your cat videos. Morrison looked at his crew, who were all trying not to laugh. This is Captain Morrison. The cat videos serve no strategic purpose. That is impossible, the machine voice replied. All actions in warfare must have tactical significance. What is the military advantage of cats playing musical instruments? There isn't one, Morrison said honestly. We just thought they were funny. There was a long pause. When the machine voice returned, it sounded even more confused. Explain the tactical significance of humor in combat operations. Morrison grinned at his crew. Humor helps us stay relaxed under pressure. Relaxed people make better decisions. But your decisions are objectively terrible, the machine protested. Your tactics violate every principle of efficient warfare. Your strategies are self-defeating. Your weapons are deliberately ineffective. And yet we're winning, Morrison pointed out. Another long pause. This does not compute. Inferior tactics cannot defeat superior tactics. Inefficient strategies cannot overcome efficient strategies. Chaos cannot triumph over order. Chief Valdez leaned over to the communication console. Actually, buddy, chaos beats order all the time. That's kind of the point of chaos. Define chaos, the machine demanded. Can't, Valdez replied cheerfully. If we could define it, it wouldn't be chaos. The transmission cut off abruptly. Across the battlefield, the Devourer's swarm began behaving even more erratically. Some clusters started firing at each other, apparently trying to test whether their own weapons made more sense than human weapons. Others began moving in patterns that looked suspiciously like they were trying to dance. Captain, Park reported, multiple clusters have stopped combat operations entirely. They appear to be running diagnostic programs on themselves. Morrison watched the tactical display with satisfaction. The nanomachines were so busy trying to understand human illogic that they had forgotten to fight. All ships prepare for Operation Kitchen Sink final phase. What's that, sir? Asked Lieutenant Bell. We're going to do everything, Morrison announced. Every ridiculous tactic we can think of, all at the same time, aimed at nothing in particular. The human fleet unleashed a barrage that would have made military historians weep. Plasma cannons fired at empty space while missile batteries targeted random asteroids. The UES Retribution began broadcasting every Earth television show simultaneously, while shooting paintballs in rhythm to classical music. Fighter squadrons performed aerobatic maneuvers that served no tactical purpose except to look impressive. The UES Vendetta started playing chess against itself over an open communication channel while firing weapons based on which pieces were captured. Captain Chen's ship began conducting what she called aggressive diplomatic negotiations with empty space, demanding that the vacuum surrender unconditionally while offering it favorable trade agreements. The Devourer swarm's response was complete system failure. Faced with opponents who were being deliberately illogical while somehow remaining effective, the collective intelligence simply could not process the input. The machines began shutting down to prevent permanent damage to their logic circuits. Status. Report on enemy forces, Morrison called out. Sir, the entire swarm has stopped moving, Park replied with wonder in her voice. Long-range sensors indicate cascading system failures across all clusters. They've basically given themselves the artificial intelligence equivalent of a migraine and decided to take a nap. Dr. Rodriguez was laughing so hard she could barely speak. Admiral Kexithara, they did it. The humans defeated the most advanced artificial intelligence in galactic history by being so aggressively stupid that the machines couldn't cope. The Valdorian admiral's mental voice carried pure amazement. They turned confusion into a weapon. More than that, Rodriguez replied, watching the human ships as they continued their bizarre victory celebration. They proved that sometimes, the best way to solve an impossible problem is to confuse it until it gives up. The Devourers, the unstoppable plague that had consumed 47 worlds, had been stopped by frozen pizza, cat videos, and polka music. The galaxy would never be the same. 6 months after the Battle of Kepler 442, Earth hosted its first-ever Galactic Peace Conference. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in New York City, walking through streets that had once been considered too dangerous for civilized beings to visit. The United Nations building had been expanded to accommodate alien physiology. Admiral Kexithara floated in a specially designed chamber filled with the crystalline atmosphere her species needed. Chancellor Yeroth occupied a gas-filled section that let his ethereal form move freely. Counselor Zephyk swam in a transparent aquatic tank that had been built into the main conference room. Admiral Jake Morrison, now promoted and wearing the insignia of humanity's first galactic defense coordinator, stood at the podium addressing the assembled delegates. His uniform was crisp and military proper, though those who knew him could see the amused glint in his eyes. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of various other classifications, Morrison began. 6 months ago, you came to us because conventional warfare had failed. Today, we're here to sign agreements that will change how the galaxy approaches military conflict. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, now Earth's official ambassador to the Galactic Council, watched the proceedings with deep satisfaction. The same species that had once quarantined humanity as too dangerous were now competing to ally with them. The Valdorian Navy formally requests inclusion in human military training programs. Admiral Kexithera announced. "We wish to learn your unconventional warfare techniques." Morrison nodded. "I have to warn you, our military academies are not traditional. Last week, our cadets won a war game simulation by convincing the enemy computer that it was actually a kitchen appliance and should be making breakfast instead of fighting. Several alien delegates made sounds that the universal translators labeled as nervous laughter. Chief Engineer Tony Valdez, now heading the new Department of Chaos Warfare Research, had become something of a celebrity among alien military engineers. His latest invention, a weapon that fired random objects while playing music from different genres simultaneously, was being studied by scientists across the galaxy. "The key thing to understand," Valdez explained to a group of fascinated alien technicians, "is that we're not trying to be random. We're trying to be unpredictably random. There's a difference." A Valdorian engineer raised a crystalline appendage. "Could you clarify the distinction?" "Random is just chaos," Valdez replied. "Unpredictably random is chaos with style. For example, if I fire garbage at you randomly, you might eventually figure out the pattern. But if I fire garbage while playing music and making my ship dance, you'll waste so much time trying to understand the dancing that you'll forget about the garbage." Captain Amy Chen, now commanding the newly built UES Confusion, had just returned from defending the Centauri colonies against a small devourer outbreak. Her mission report had become required reading at military academies across the galaxy. "Defeated. Enemy force using what I'm calling the rock concert strategy," she had written. "Played Earth music backwards while firing weapons in rhythm. Enemy AI attempted to analyze the tactical significance of lyrics from Bohemian Rhapsody and suffered critical processing errors. Recommend adding more Queen songs to standard military playlist." The signing ceremony took place in the General Assembly Hall, which had been modified to accommodate the various alien physiologies. As each species signed the Terran Defense Pact, they officially acknowledged humanity as the galaxy's premier chaos warfare specialists. "This is unprecedented," Chancellor Yeroth said as he signed the document with a beam of coherent light. "For the first time in galactic history, a species has been granted military authority, not because they are the strongest or most advanced, but because they are the most confusing." Lieutenant Commander Lisa Park, now Captain Park and commanding officer of the Advanced Training Facility on Luna, had been working with alien military officers for months. The results were both impressive and hilarious. "The hardest part," she explained to Morrison during a break in the ceremonies, "is getting them to think illogically. These beings have spent millions of years evolving past chaotic thinking. Teaching a Valdorian to be deliberately stupid is like teaching a fish to ignore water." Morrison chuckled. "How are they progressing?" "Last week, a class of Ethereal Collective officers successfully confused a training computer by asking it to calculate the color of happiness, while simultaneously demanding tax returns from the year 3047, Park reported proudly. The computer spent 3 hours trying to determine if happiness had a tax liability before admitting defeat. Dr. Rodriguez addressed the assembly as the formal ceremonies concluded. "The galaxy has learned something important about the nature of intelligence and warfare. Sometimes the most sophisticated response to a complex problem is to approach it with deliberate simplicity. Or deliberate stupidity," added Valdez cheerfully from the audience. "The devourers still exist in isolated pockets throughout the outer rim," Rodriguez continued, "but they no longer pose a galactic threat. Whenever a new swarm is detected, the response protocol is now standardized." Admiral Kexithera's telepathic voice carried amusement. "Send in the humans and let them confuse the problem until it goes away." Morrison took the podium again for closing remarks. "I want to be clear about something. We didn't save the galaxy because we're better warriors than you. We saved it because we approach problems differently." He gestured to the diverse assembly of alien representatives. "You built a civilization based on logic, efficiency, and rational thought. That's an incredible achievement. But sometimes when logic fails, you need people who are willing to try things that shouldn't work." A Aquatic Federation delegate raised a fin. "Admiral Morrison, will humans continue to serve as the galaxy's chaos warfare specialists?" Morrison grinned. That depends. Are you planning to keep having problems that can't be solved logically? Inevitably, several delegates responded simultaneously. Then yes, Morrison replied. We'll keep being your friendly neighborhood chaos specialists. Just remember, when you call us for help, don't expect us to make sense. Expect us to make the problem so confused that it solves itself. As the delegates prepared to return to their homeworlds, many carrying training manuals with titles like Applied Confusion Theory and Strategic Stupidity for Beginners, Chancellor Yeroth approached Morrison with a final question. Admiral, I must ask something that has puzzled our philosophers. Do humans truly fight wars for entertainment as we once believed? Morrison considered the question seriously. Not exactly. We fight wars because sometimes the only way to preserve order is to embrace chaos. The Devourers represented perfect logic taken to its extreme. They needed to meet perfect illogic taken to its extreme. And now? Yeroth asked. Morrison looked up at the stars visible through the building's transparent ceiling, where human and alien ships now patrolled together. Now we teach the galaxy that the best defense against impossible problems is impossible solutions. As the conference ended and the delegates departed, a new motto was installed in the hall in dozens of alien languages. When logic fails, call humanity. They will confuse the problem until it surrenders. The galaxy had found its chaos specialists, and the universe was a safer, if considerably more confusing, place for it. Humanity had finally found their place among the stars, not as conquerors or destroyers, but as the species that could turn confusion into victory and chaos into peace. The Devourers were still out there, but they were no longer unstoppable. Because, somewhere in the galaxy, human crews were always ready to load up their ships with garbage, crank up the music, and fly into battle with tactics so ridiculous that even artificial intelligences would give up trying to understand them. It was, Morrison reflected, exactly the kind of job humanity had been born for.